Have you ever asked yourself the question, is a Mexican Fender Stratocaster a real Fender Stratocaster? I'm answering that question in this video, but before we do that, do me a favor and take just a second, subscribe to this channel, like this video, hit the bell, all that kind of stuff. Also, if you end up liking this video, feel free to support me on Patreon at patreon.com/KennisRussell. So I make these series of videos often on how to spot fake Fender guitars and Gibson guitars and just how to spot a fake guitar because there's a whole industry out there of people that will take lesser expensive guitars and make them look like an American-made Fender guitar. Part of that I get all the time, people asking me a question basically that is something on the lines of I'll get an email or a message on Facebook saying, can you look at this guitar and see if it's real or not? And it's usually, about half the time, it's a Mexican guitar. And so I really wanted to address the made in Mexico fake issue. Now, the reason why I think this is an issue, and I've got a bunch of examples here that we'll really go through here in a second, but the reason why this is an issue is in past videos, I've talked about how something might be a fake because I might think that it's a Mexican Fender Stratocaster that someone is trying to pass off as an American-made Fender Stratocaster. So if you have a Mexican Fender guitar, an MIM guitar that has Fender on it, that is a real Fender guitar. But if you take off the Made in Mexico logo and put Made in the USA logo on it or decal on there, then that is now a fake USA Fender guitar. Okay, so it's still, I guess, a real Mexican guitar, but you're faking the American made thing. That's the context in which I've said that Mexicans sometimes are fakes. It's when they're trying to be passed off as a USA guitar. Now, just to make sure I'm crystal clear here, I'm not even saying that made in Mexico guitars are inferior. Actually, my Fender Stratocaster, the one that I play the most, is a made in Mexico Fender Stratocaster, and I absolutely love it. So I don't think that they're necessarily inferior products. A lot of people say, what's the difference between a made in Mexico and made in the USA? And the answer is about 60 miles, because apparently that's how far apart their factories are across the border. So with that being said, I wanted to look at a couple examples of people that have messaged me on Facebook and to have me take a look at their guitar. By the way, if you want to message me on Facebook, do so at facebook.com/KennisRussell, and you can send me pictures of your guitars in the messaging. So let's look at a couple of these. This first one, this guy just said, "Hey, I saw a lot of your videos, and would you be interested in seeing if this one I saw on Facebook Marketplace is real?" So I said, sure, I'll take a look at it. So let's jump over to the actual pictures here itself. So this is the guitar. Let me go back, kind of the first one he sent. This is right here. Right off the bat, I can tell that this is a legitimate made in Mexico guitar, or it's at least a legitimate Fender guitar. The dots here look like they're in the right spots. I can tell even from this distance that it's got bent saddles here, which typically Mexicans have. And it's also, I can tell that it does not have the truss rod hole right here, which means that it's down here in the base. You can kind of see that it's right there in the base. Typically, if somebody's going to do a fake of a guitar, they don't go the extra mile and try to fake the vintage thing and do it the right way. So and we'll get to that in here a little bit more in a second. A couple better pictures of that. And then, okay, here's the headstock. The one thing that might be a red flag is this string tree. Seems like that's not quite in the right spot. It to me should be a little bit lower. However, that's not necessarily a deal breaker. Sometimes they might get put in the wrong spot, or the logo might have got shifted down just a hair when it was put on. But it's got these vintage tuners here. So, and it also, like I mentioned before, it has the no truss rod hole up here. It's down there at the base of the neck. So I can tell that this is some sort of reissue or some sort of thing happening there. If you go on the back of the headstock, you can see the tuners again. These are the vintage tuners. and then it very clearly says made in Mexico, and it's got the serial number on here. So why would I say that this is a legitimate made in Mexico guitar? Well, here's the thing. If you were going, you have to kind of put yourself in the mindset of somebody that's faking. If you were going to go through the trouble of getting all the details right on this guitar, there's not many details here that are different between the Mexico, made in Mexico, and the, sorry, I keep on going to the wrong picture there, made in Mexico and the made in the USA. In other words, like right here, if I wanted to, I could just slap on an American serial number and made in the USA here and be able to pass it off equally as well as I could for the made in Mexico version. So if I'm going to spend the time and energy to fake something, I'm going to make sure that I'm going to get all the details right on this, this guitar. I'm going to take get the right neck that doesn't have the truss rod hole at the top. I'm going to put the tuners on there, the vintage tuners, get the right saddles, all that kind of thing. Might as well just put made in the USA on it and sell it for twice as much. So it kind of comes down to this, like, the economics of it. Like, would you rather sell a guitar on the used, because these fakes are usually sold on the used market. Would I rather sell that for, let's say, try to dupe somebody for $400, $450 on the used market for the Mexican version? Or would I slap an American decal on there and try to pass it off and get perhaps $1,000 or $1,200 for it? So you really have to think, it's kind of like, it's easier to fool one person once than two people once. And if you're going to do twice as much work to do that, the scammer is going to probably just feel like that it's a lot easier to just make it made in the USA. That's why I would say most of these made in Mexico guitars, if you see the made in Mexico logo, it's probably a legitimate Mexican guitar. So here's another example here of a guitar. This person says, hello, I love watching your channel about fake Fender Strats. I just bought one used and it came in today and wanted to know if it's the real thing. I totally can understand that for somebody that was like, oh my gosh, I just bought this. And then I looked up a YouTube video talking about fakes. I want to know if I got a fake or not. Okay, so let me just go through some of the things on here that right off the bat, even again on this, I can tell that this is like most likely a legitimate guitar before I even look at anything closer. I can see up at the top that it looks, even from this picture, it looks like a plastic truss rod. And we'll verify that in another picture. The dots here they're close together compared to like a typical import guitar, which is good. It's got the bent saddles as well as a 2-point tremolo, which typically the fakes don't have the 2-point tremolo. That would be a rare thing for a fake to have a 2-point tremolo for anything. Going on in the next picture, here's our headstock again. You can kind of tell what I was saying about the previous one. This string tree looks a little bit better. The other one was a little bit too high, but it does have the plastic truss rod right here. Everything looks legit there. The plastic truss rod is what the made in Mexico Fenders use. A walnut truss rod is what the USA Fenders use. And then Squiers sometimes use, or import guitars sometimes use a plastic one, but it's not as often. Usually it's just blank. There's no insert. There's no surround on that. So typically whenever you see a black one, it is a Mexican. If it's a walnut, it's American. And if it's nothing, it's an import. And then it's got this on the back here. A couple more pictures. Just everything looks legit. And then again, going back to our issue with the logo, why would you fake this and then put a Mexican logo on here, made in Mexico decal, when you're going to get at least half as much, or at the most half as much money as you would if you were just selling it as a made in the USA. So there you go with that. Another close-up shot. It has the Fender saddles here as well, and this sounds like like I might be just kind of talking out of my rear, but you can actually tell on the saddles if they're real or not, because the fake ones, the logo does not look as sharp. I know that sounds like that is just bunk, but it is true. I didn't have time to pull up another one. I just thought about that while I was doing this, but you can tell on the however that's stamped or whatever. On the real ones, they look really sharp. On the fake ones, they're kind of muddy looking. All right. This next one is kind of an interesting guitar, because he says, "Hey Kennis, I love your channel. I came across this 1994. It's actually 1995. Fender Series Stratocaster on the Facebook Marketplace. I thought you might find this guitar interesting. It's made in Mexico Fender. I was today years old when I found out these existed. It's a legit guitar from what I've researched. Interesting as well." So he's actually not asking if it's real, but he's talking about it. So the reason why he's saying he found out about these guitars today is up here on the logo. It says Squier Series right here, which apparently was a series of guitars that Fender did on their Mexican guitars. Not all of them, but they did a series of made in Mexico guitars that was their Squier series. I think in this time, and the reason why I know it's, sorry to get off track here, the MN with the 5 right here shows that it was made in 95. Anyway, at least that's what I think it means. I'm pretty sure that's true. Anyway, I think when in this time in the late 90s or the mid to late 90s, they were trying to figure out what they were going to do with the Squier series guitars, or the Squier name of guitars. And so, they were trying some various things out. They did have Squier guitars that were Japanese made and were actually really, really good guitars if you can get your hands on one. And I think they were trying to figure out, maybe if they throw Squier on this, they can, have a kind of a higher level guitar in here. I'm not really even sure exactly where this fit in their hierarchy of quality, but nevertheless, a couple years later, they dropped the Squier series guitar and it no longer exists. And it's just the Squier guitar. Instead of it being a Fender Squier series, it's just the Squier guitar, which I actually kind of appreciate them doing. Yeah, this is a legit guitar. There's no serial number on the back, because back in the day, they used to put the serial numbers on the front. Again, black truss rod cover here, or insert. And you can, it's kind of hard to tell, but well, you can tell pretty well. The dot right here is on the inside of this string, which would indicate that this is a genuine Fender product. All right, moving on to our last. Oh, and this is the inside of this as well, which looks like the wiring of a made in Mexico guitar as well. All right, and the last one that I wanted to do is let's see, where'd it go? Yeah, this one here. This person says, "Hey man, I'm sure you get a ton of these messages, so I'm sorry to bug you, but I saw your YouTube video on fake strats and just wanted to get your opinion on this one. It's a Mexican Strat that I'm thinking of buying, but just trying to make sure it's legit first. Any input you might have would be greatly appreciated." So thanks for reaching out to me, Katie. With this guitar, right off the bat, I mean, I looked at it for 2 seconds and I could tell that this was real for a number of reasons. And actually I don't even have didn't download the pictures on here. So I'll just use this, but I can tell it's 2-point tremolo system. Like we talked about, even from here, I can tell the dots are closer together, than import. It's got a black truss rod cover. It's got these, upgraded, string trees that they're putting on more modern guitars as well. So all of those things would lead me to say, yeah, I don't even have to see the serial number. But again, if it's a Mexican, they're trying to sell it as a Mexican, why would they sell it as Mexican when they could try to sell it as an American? So I said, it looks like legit. Asked how much they were asking. And this is my point with this and why I'm bringing it up. She said they're asking $580. And I said, that seems a little bit high for a made in Mexico. She asked what would be a fair price. And I said, what year is it? She said it's 2019. So basically it's a new guitar. And, so I just went on the Google webs and searched, Fender Mexican Stratocaster. And this is currently, you can buy this guitar here on Guitar Center for $599. So if you're looking at buying a used Mexican Stratocaster for $580, there's no way I'm going to do that when I can buy a new one for $200 and perhaps get a warranty or whatever, and you go into the store and buy it. So she said, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Again, that kind of goes to the value of something. Like, I don't think that person's going to get $580 for that guitar. And I mean, if they do, more power to them, but I don't think that's going to happen. Probably the going rate for that guitar, I mean, if it just was like amazing and got everything you had, I just loved the guitar, I could maybe see spending $500 on it, but really more in the $400 to $450 price range is where I would kind of see that guitar, considering that it is newer. It's only a year old. But typically on the used market, my Mexican I got for $200. Then granted, that was about 5 or 6 years ago. But there's deals out there that you can find, depending on where you're looking. But typically you see them go from anywhere from about $350 to $450 on the used market, depending again on the quality of it and the upkeep, if it's got a bunch of scratches, if it's got stickers on it, that kind of thing. So anyway, just wanted to make this video to clarify what I had said about Mexican guitars. I think they're actually great, and they're real if they keep the Made in Mexico badge on there. If it's swapped out for a Made in USA, it is now a fake Made in the USA Fender guitar. So that's my position on it. I'm sticking with it. Hopefully you like this video. If you did, consider supporting me on Patreon at patreon.com/KennisRussell. Also subscribe to my channel, all that kind of jazz. Thank you guys for watching. I will see you in another video.